The first BCS standings came out this week. LSU 1, Alabama 2, followed by Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Then Boise State. Of course, LSU and Bama will play each other November 5th. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State will play each other the final regular season game of the season. So should be interesting moving forward. All right, Rodney. Trent Richardson, we know he's a Heisman candidate. We know he is arguably the most talented running back in the country. His combination of size, speed, and power is not often seen. But this Heisman Trophy chase oftentimes comes down to not necessarily who's the best player, but, you know, who's the best player on the best team sometimes, or who can have a defining moment. Now, I know it's Ole Miss, and they're not great defensively, but that run right there, the fact that he made this young man right there miss twice. He missed him at the line of scrimmage, then that incredible move right there. Is that the kind of video opportunity that could really propel him to the Heisman?
I think so. No question about it. Gary, is great, unbelievable run. You talk about it was 76 yards, but how long was it really when you consider he went from the left side of the field all the way across to the right side of the field? He juked that guy twice.
He did.
You know,
Poor
he
freshman.
juked him at the line of scrimmage, then down there at the end. And, you know, what stamina, what strength to make that run and then still have the ability to, you know, change gears there and stop and start again.
The amazing thing about him, and we saw Ingram up close and personal. We've seen some great backs come through here. You know, Sean Alexander, certainly Ken Darby did a good job. Glenn Coffey, all of those in the, you know, just the last 10 or so years. But I don't know yet that I've seen one guy take him down. I mean, think about that. When have you seen somebody one-on-one drop him?
That fourth down run from the Wildcat was, you know, they had him.
Yeah.
And he just powered. He got 10 yards. And I tell you, you talk about that run, that 76-yard run. And, you know, when you look at it, if you remember back to Mark Ingram's stretch there, of course, he had the big game against South Carolina. That propelled him when he ran for 246. But there was a run in the Mississippi State game late. Gary, I know you're going to know the one I'm talking about. It was a 70-yard run. It put him over 150. He was around 80. I thought that was a really big run from Mark Ingram. I think this run right here against Ole Miss kind of puts a little bit of icing on Trent's cake, so to speak. I think it adds to it a little bit.
And another thing I think that actually will help him is the fact that Coach Saban is going to let him win the Heisman within the team concept if he wanted to, just like with Ingram. You know, they could have put him back in there. He could have got a 5th touchdown, possibly a 6th touchdown, you know, possibly 300 yards rushing. But when it was time to get him out, they got him out, and you have to like that. As good as he is, and his long touchdowns are important to the offense, it's not all the offense. So far this season, Alabama has incredible balance: 242 yards on the ground, 219 through the air. And you know, Rodney, we hear so much about the defense, but you look at the SEC statistics right now, Alabama's right there with Arkansas at the top of the offensive statistics, and their balance is exactly what McElwain and Saban are striving for. This is a good offense.
You know, Gary, the question was posed to us not only here on the show, but on our radio show on Wednesday nights as well early on. You know, how good can this Alabama team be? And, you know, we talked about the offense, and I said all along, I thought it had a very high ceiling. But how quickly would they progress and to how far could they go? And, you know, you're really starting to see them, I think, develop each week. And again, it's the maturity of A.J. McCarron, how quickly he's developed. I think that's been a big thing. You look, he had a lot of success throwing the ball underneath against Ole Miss. You know, he's making some great reads. He's dumping the ball off. He made a couple of really great dump offs to Trent Richardson for big gains. You look at the second half drive, when they opened that drive, you know, it was throwing the ball. He was making some throws. It opened it up more for the running game. I think as he continues to throw the ball down the field, you're going to start seeing him have more success.
Well, it's like we were also talking about on our radio show. I'm not surprised the offense is doing well. You know, recruiting-wise, they just haven't recruited good players on defense. They've recruited them on offense, too. Yeah. I mean, these are talented players.
Well, and another thing that I think is really good, you talk about the team concept. We talked to, you know, many people said, how are you going to replace Julio? And we said right here on this show, they're going to start spreading the ball around. You're going to see a lot of people involved offensively. Now you look at it. You look at Michael Williams. Alabama fans have cried for years, when are we going to get the tight end involved? You look at Michael Williams, the success he's had so far. You look at Brad Smelly. He's catching balls. You know, DeAndre White emerged a week ago. You've got Kenny Bell's been contributing, and as well as Marquise Mason. This past week, Darius Hanks had a big game.
He did.
So
it's a good unit.
And Trent's really good catching the ball out of the backfield. So
all those guys are weapons offensively. All right, let's talk about the next opponent, Tennessee. The Vols, you know, started out real well. Now they have kind of, you know, gotten into conference play, and the talent of the other teams has caught up with them. Plus, they lost Bray, their quarterback. They've gone to Sims. But against LSU, I will say this. To have any chance against Alabama, they've got to run the football some. And with Sims, they actually ran it a lot better. than they had been running it with Bray. I think obviously it has a lot to do with the fact they're not throwing it as much. But yeah, they're going to be focused, and you know they've got to try to shorten the game against Alabama to have any chance.
Yeah, they've got a really young offensive line, really. They start 4 sophomores and a junior at left tackle, and you know, they did run it more. Torrin Poole had a really good game. He was 19 carries for 70 yards. That's the most yardage a back has gained on LSU's defense this year. The backup, Marlon Lane, a true freshman out of Florida, he had a really good game as well. But he's also an excellent receiver. So they did some things in the running game, and I think that's probably what you'll see them try to focus on this game, because Bray was really lighting it up as a passer.
You know, you look at this game, though, and it's pretty much like every other game that Alabama's played so far. You get the feeling the only chance Tennessee has is if Alabama helps them. And so far, Alabama has not been in the giving mood. Since that first game or two, they have not turned the football over at all. Well, coming up later in the show, we'll make our predictions for the Alabama-Tennessee game. But right now, let's get to the phones and grab some phone calls. Some people have been standing by patiently. Joseph is first up in Tuscaloosa. Hey, Joseph, what's going on?
Hey, Gary, how you feeling, man?
Doing great, bud.
Yeah, but hey, when I was sitting there looking at WZA earlier, I saw Derek, the coach at Tennessee, Derek Dooley, talk about Alabama's defense. Now, I kind of saw a nervous look on the man's face. I mean, Ray Charles and Steve Wonder could see that's a nervous look.
Well, you can't blame him if he is. I mean, again, you heard what he said about that defense. He thinks it's one of the best ever, potentially. And, you know, he probably is a little nervous. But I'll be honest with you, he's a competitor. Nick Saban is kind of his mentor. I think he's looking forward to the game. I think he's looking forward to trying to come up with a scheme like we talked about, run the ball a little, shorten the game, and just hang around. All Tennessee wants to do, and I know Lane Kiffin was the coach then, but they might take a page or two out of the game plan from 2 years ago. They just want to try to hang around and keep it close enough that they could have a chance in the second half. Easier said than done, but I think Dooley and his football team will look forward to it. They're a big underdog, but they got nothing to lose. You can say that for them.
Well, and I think you're right on that, but I do think the problem they have is they're not as good as that Tennessee team was a couple of years. First of all, they're playing with a backup quarterback, Sims. That defense a couple of years ago was better than this defense. And you know, Joseph, you know, again, if you look at what Tennessee wants to do, as Gary said, run the football. Torrin Poole had 117 yards against Alabama. He was the first back, I think, in 19 or 20 games to go over 100 yards against Alabama last year.
In the last one, too.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about it is I thought they played really well last year. I think Derek Dooley's doing a good job with what he has. I really do. So, again, I think he will be competitive. How long can they hang in there remains to be seen.
Let's stay in Tuscaloosa and talk with CB. CB, welcome in.
Hey, gentlemen, how y'all? You know, first of all, let's send that Rocky Top bunch on back to where they come from. And me and I tell you, we just got too extra high expectations, or I know it's great tradition. And, you know, we lost 6 times in a row to Auburn. I'm still crazy over that. So, yeah, I'm one of these crazy fans. Roll Tide, whip them all.
I hear you, CB. I think sometimes the expectations are too high. This year, I don't think they are. You know, expectations being too high usually happen when your football team's not good enough. You know, this football team, I think, has got a chance to live up to all the expectations.
I agree.
We shall see. All right, we're going to take a timeout. We'll be back with more of your phone calls and emails right after this. Back to the phones to talk with our buddy Trey from West Blockton. Trey, what's going on?
Hey, not much. How you doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, I was going to really quickly talk about the fact that I'm very happy about how this offense has morphed into a two-dimensional one. And, of course, everybody knows, it's been well publicized, you know, the questions, concerns about the quarterback position prior to the year. And, you know, McCarron, of course, he's always had accuracy and that, you know, all-important football IQ, but how is he going to handle the pressure? You know, was he going to be able to harness some poise under the bright lights of, you know, SEC play? And I think he's done that and actually exceeded that game manager, often overused, I think, game manager label, and he's a definite threat at this point, and I just feel very good about that offense and the team in general, you know, going forward.
Oh, no doubt, Trey. He's done a great job, and right now they are running and passing pretty evenly, and he's done a terrific job. You know, first of all, there's nothing wrong with being a game manager. If you can't manage a game, you can't play quarterback. So, but he is making plays. I will say this, against LSU, just like in LSU's case against Alabama's defense, he's going to see a defense the likes of which he hasn't seen. And you can bet they are going to try to make Alabama one-dimensional. They are going to come after him with everything but the kitchen stove. He's going to see pressure like he hasn't seen. And that'll be the true litmus test for A.J. McCarron, as it is for any quarterback when you play a defense, like it's going to be for Jarrett Lee and Jordan Jefferson against Alabama's defense.
Yeah, it is. You remember 2 years ago in 2009 when LSU came to town, and that was a huge game as well. And Alabama opened the game with a pass to Brad Smelly, if you remember, and threw the ball a lot in the first half. And missed a couple of throws that could have certainly given Alabama a cushion there. But, you know, I think you'll probably see the same thing. I think you'll probably see Alabama come out, you know, spread them out a little bit, throw the football, and then like they did in the second half against LSU in that game, pound them with Richardson. That time they pounded them with Ingram. But, you know, that's kind of what I would expect. And again, I agree with what he says about the maturity of A.J.
All right, Jesse, I'm sorry. We've got to get to break. If we can take your question out of the break, we will. We'll be back right after this. All right, we're getting up against the clock, so we're going to make our predictions fairly quickly. Rodney, Alabama and Tennessee, how do you see it?
Well, you know, Gary, when you look at this game, it's simple. Alabama's the better football team. Alabama's playing really well. We've talked about the two-dimensional offense. We've talked about the defense. They've got way too much for Tennessee. 35-10 Alabama, and that's a conservative pick, I think.
Well, I'm right with you. I mean, I too think Derek Dewey's doing a good job. I mean, despite the record, I think over time he's going to build a good program there. They're going to play hard. They're going to put a lot into this, but Alabama's going to play hard too. I think this team is focused and understands the big picture with Nick Saban pushing all the right buttons. I think Alabama wins it big, 37-6. I'm just seeing this defense every week, and it is hard to score points against the Alabama defense. So we will find out on Saturday. It is dinner time for tonight, though. Tonight we're heading over to Buddy's Rib and Steak in Northport. As always, we welcome you to come by and join us for one of those big juicy steaks or some ribs or some chicken or whatever you might want to have with us at Buddy's tonight in Northport. And a reminder, if you missed the show, you can catch it anytime on WVUATV.com. Our John Huddleston will have it posted just a little bit later this evening. And for John Huddleston, Rodney Orr, Jonathan Newman, and the rest of the TITV crew, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. A reminder, our radio show tomorrow night from 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock, and in other markets from 7 until 9. We'll see you then. We'll see you next week on TITV. Have a good night.